Well, hello and welcome to the e-commerce podcast with me, your host, Matt Edmundson. Now, this is a show all about delivering e-commerce well, at least trying to help you do that. That's what we're here for. That's what we're trying to do. So do stay with us as we talk about all things e-commerce with today's amazing guest, Jason Wood from Specificity. Jason, you're going to have to say your name because obviously I can't say. Specificity. I think I've just gone and found one of those words that I just can't say. Those sort of random words. But we're going to be chatting about all things e-com. But before we do, why not go check out the e-commerce podcast website if you haven't done so already, ecommercepodcast.net. Make sure you sign up to the newsletter and we will send you all the notes, all the links, everything from our conversation today will come to your inbox automatically and for free, which is amazing. Do you know what else is amazing? Today's show sponsor. Oh yes. Now today's show sponsor is of course the wonderful e-commerce cohort. This is our monthly membership group which you can join. It's pretty cheap, it's like $14 a month. But you get all kinds of amazing things by being a member, including expert workshops delivered every month. Plus you get to watch the live recording of this podcast. Yeah, so whenever I do podcast recordings, you get to come join in live and ask the guests all kinds of questions. So try it out. Come check it out, ecommercecohort.com. Now, loving the music, by the way. There we go. Let's meet Jason, the digital marketing maestro who doesn't just think outside the box. Oh no, he vaporizes it. As the trailblazing CEO of Specificity. I don't know why I'm struggling with this word, Jason. Has anybody else struggled with your company name, or is it just me?
You know, I've had sales reps with me for over a year that still stumble over it. It's okay.
That's made me feel so much better. Now, Jason is reimagining the marketing game with jaw-dropping tech from things like Pickpocket, which I want to talk to you about actually, because I'm really intrigued by this. From leading startups to winning awards, he's the guy who's turning heads and rewriting the rulebook. Oh yes, Jason, welcome to the show, man. Looking forward to this one. How are we doing, sir?
I'm doing well, man, and thanks a lot for having me today. I've been looking forward to this, Matt.
It's great to have you on, and we were talking before we hit the record button there, that behind you is the Kansas City Chiefs. Mm-hmm. And you are obviously a Kansas City Chiefs fan, which I didn't say before we hit the record button, so am I, ironically.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I when I lived in the States, I lived in North Carolina, and they didn't have the Carolina Panthers at the time. So your nearest team was what was then called the Washington Redskins, which were, I enjoyed watching them play. And when the Panthers started, I've been to the stadium, I've got the shirt and all that sort of stuff. But for some reason, it was the Chiefs. And so they've been to London to play. They played the Jaguars. And I took my kids, my two boys. My daughter didn't want to come, actually. But I took the two boys down to Wembley and we watched the Chiefs play here in the UK. So I'm a bit of a Chiefs fan.
Nice. I love it. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always interesting, isn't it? American football. We call it. You obviously just call it football. We call it American football because obviously football here has very different meanings. But we call it American football, and I just love the game. I don't know what it is about it that I wasn't brought up on it in any way, shape, or form. But I got hooked onto it, man, and it was just interesting.
Well, it's a combination of just like this gladiator type sport where it's rough and tumble and hit hard, and yet there's so much strategy and chess to it that it makes for a great game. We love it here in the States. I mean, obviously the NFL is a big deal here in the U.S.
Yeah, massive deal. So if you ever get a chance to watch the game, do go and watch the game if you haven't seen one already. They do like 3 or 4 games a season now here in the UK, and I think they're expanding them out to different countries, from what I understand.
Yeah, they are. It's kind of weird being a lifelong football fan. You know, you wake up in the morning on a Sunday and, get your coffee and get the pregame on and you go, wow, we got a game that's live here in an hour at 9:30 in the morning here in U.S. time. Like, why do we have football at 9:30 in the morning?
Yeah. Like, oh, wait, it's in England. That's why. Yeah, the Brits have screwed it up again. Thank you, England.
Well, it just really doesn't feed well into that demographic that likes to consume a lot of alcohol. 9:30 in the morning, they're pounding their they're drinking choice and makes
Yeah.
for some interesting chat rooms during the games.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No doubt. No doubt. Since I didn't even think about that. Yeah, it's true. It's a sport that I thoroughly enjoy. And, one of the other things that amuse me, Jason, you won't know this, but in our system here where we do all our sort of podcast management, for want of a better expression, Sadaf, who is the show's producer, you did a call with Sadaf before we jumped onto the call, just
Right.
so Sadaf knows what's going on. You've met her, you've chatted to her, which is great. And Sadaf usually writes me quite detailed notes, right, about the guests and what kind of questions to ask and all that sort of stuff. And so Sadaf, I wanted to read this out to you because it's funny what she writes about guests sometimes. And so in the notes, what was it Sadaf said here? Matt, Jason knows a lot in capital letters, right? A lot is in capital letters. Feel free to take the conversation in any which direction, and I'm sure the audience will glean. So whatever you and Sadaf talked about, she came away very impressed. So.
Nice. Well, it's kind words.
It takes a lot, let me tell you, to get that out of Sadaf. So take it, that's for sure. So specificity. I'm genuinely really sorry.
You got it.
Specificity. What's your company do? How did it get started? Let's just jump there and understand a bit about you.
Yeah, so, at Specificity, we kind of have some core beliefs that really drive everything we do, right? So we understand technology changes, AdTech technology changes, emerging tech, and what's actionable and what's not. That all changes. The core of what really drives Specificity is an understanding that the more understanding and control marketers have over whom it is they're actually targeting, the more successful they can be across everything they do in marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of runs, counterintuitive to a lot of the mainstream thinking because we've all gotten so, I'm going to say, addicted to ad tech and social media where we don't have to be marketers anymore. These marketers are in their early 30s and younger. They don't remember the days of doing data modeling. They don't remember the days of really having to root through, personas and convert those into addressable data points and all of that because they've grown up in marketing where it's just this platform and you check these boxes. And what we've seen as, I think, an industry is just a fundamental, undeniable understanding that those data points just don't mean what they say they mean all the time. And they're growing increasingly diluted, somewhat intentionally. And the goal of big tech and ad tech is always to, grow your spend towards a mass CPM model and not so much about micro-defining the high conversion audiences that we so covet as digital marketers.
Mm-hmm. Just define what you mean for those that might not know, Jason. When you say a CPM model, just explain what that is.
Well, whether you're talking about Google, whether you're talking about the Meta Suite, whether you're talking about LinkedIn, programmatic, OTT, connected TV, DSP, anything that you're talking about, display networks, they all have one thing in common, and that is their profit or their revenue, I should say, is directly correlated to a CPM model, cost per thousand impressions. So they make their money and derive their profit by a greater audience size, not necessarily a greater conversion model.
Yeah.
So as marketers, I think that gets lost on us all the time. We're always looking for this compressed CPM model as a means of keeping our marketing costs down. And I think what we don't understand is that with the iOS update and everything that's taken place, these targeting selects just don't mean what they mean. So what they used to mean, I should say. And so that dilution causes problems. So when you have all the platforms making money on volume, and as marketers, our ROI is directly correlated to our cost per acquisition. That means better defined audiences we have, the more successful we are as marketers and branders. It just runs counterintuitive to their model.
Yeah. It becomes, in a lot of ways, Jason, if I can put it this way, the sort of the silver bullet, the sort of the holy grail, isn't it? It's like, how do I target? Like, how do I find my target audience and actually hit that target audience rather than just blasting, ads unnecessarily out to the wider universe? Because it has become more tricky, it has become more complicated. How do I do that, and how do I do that well? I think has become a big question that everyone seems to be asking right now.
You know, excuse me, Matt. For us, it's just a fundamental understanding of what everybody at the table's goals are, and when you understand that, navigating those platforms becomes, I think, a lot more clear on how to do that. I'm not here to say that, big tech and big social and ad tech, they're all here trying to just, screw us over, and they're not. Look, we're partnered with all of them. We need them. There's no
Yeah.
doubt. But if you're reliant upon their targeting or their like audience build outs or any of that,
Mm.
and your eggs are all in the basket of their data, you're in some trouble moving forward as a marketer. And that understanding, I don't think is really debatable, Matt. I think it's been ferreted out. I mean, it started with Cambridge Analytica and Meta. Back then, it was just Facebook, and really popping the hood and seeing what kind of data they had,
Yeah.
and then compare that to what they make available to marketers. And what's their motive? Their motive is again broadening the audience, mass impression, because that's how they make money. That's and so I get why they do that. It's incumbent upon us as marketers and technologists to understand how to navigate that and how to
Mm.
use, in our purview at Specificity are a set of tools that are both in emerging tech, but also we're dragging some of this stuff back from 15 years ago, data modeling and things like that are really powerful. We just don't trust their platforms to go in and define the audience on those targeting platforms with any of them on behalf of our clients. We know we're going to do a lot better if we just use the data modeling world, the data world, and build these audiences outside of ad tech and then convert them into publishable audiences into ad tech.
I'm with you.
There we know our spend is relegated to this set of device IDs.
Yeah.
We're not asking Facebook to make decisions. We're not asking Instagram to make decisions. We're not asking the OTT or any of those programmatic or DSP to make any decisions for us on where to next take that ad in terms of what it thinks is the best strategy, because naturally their business model is part of that.
That's really interesting. So your whole company then was all about creating the audiences outside of the ad tech platforms. It's like, how do I do that? How do we create those audiences?
Yeah, and it's rooted in a very healthy acknowledgement that we need them, and an even healthier acknowledgement that if we're all being honest, we can't trust them. I mean, I think if we've all learned anything in the last 7 or 8 years in digital marketing, is that you just cannot put blinders on and set it and forget it with campaigns, because you cannot trust big tech to have your best interests in mind. They're going to have their own.
Yeah, it's powerful. So how do you go about creating these audiences then? I'm curious, if for example, we're an e-commerce podcast, we talk about e-commerce.
Sure.
And I'm just going to pull out a random thing off my desk. I say random. There's only 3 or 4 things on my desk in front of me. And so if you've listened to the show, you'll be going, Matt, that's not random. You always pull this out. So I've got here myself a little, as you can see that there, a little Lego Indiana Jones riding a little horse. I don't sell these online. It's just a fun thing to have on my desk. But I've got, let's say I do sell them online, right? I'm starting up my e-com business. How do I go about then defining or creating these target audiences, rather than just going to say Meta and saying, find for me everybody that likes the Lego page? What sort of things do I need to think about?
Well, liking a Lego page doesn't make a high conversion audience, because first of all, adults and kids alike still, play with Legos. Our generation specifically, we came up with Legos. So an Indiana Jones specifically is going to suppress out a lot of your audience that are into Minecraft, Legos, and all of this. And really, that's where you really get into it, Matt, is contextual data layering. It's not enough to understand somebody likes Legos to then sell them that particular piece of Lego, right? You've got Indiana Jones. Well, there's a demographic appeal, You had a recent launch here in the last couple of years of a remake, or I don't know if there's another iteration. I haven't seen it yet. So is there an audience play there? But the ability to identify people that don't just like Legos. So 1, Lego fans, people that spend money on Legos, people that collect Legos. 2, people that genre specific, like Indiana Jones and like that Raiders of the Lost Ark and all of that. At 3, people that are actively buying Legos, not just that have them and have a collection, but so there's all these contextual layers. And then you have to always put in their intent. What's their intent? Are they buying Legos with frequency? Because as e-commerce, it's not enough to hit an audience that likes the product or that is going to be amenable to it. You've got to identify people that are actively buying it, because unless you can afford to serve ads to everybody that likes Legos, you've got to then make decisions within that larger Lego audience. Whom is it that is likely to buy this particular Lego piece? And so for that, you need contextual data layering.
Contextual data layering. Which is a great phrase, by the way. I don't come across that phrase that often. Contextual data layering. So I'm assuming, Jason, rightly or wrongly, that this is where your tech can help people. Because I'm thinking about, the young guy or the young girl or the young couple starting their sort of side hustle business, selling products online, and they've not got the budget, say that I've got, because I've got an established e-com business, with quite a big ads budget. What sort of things do they need to think about with this contextual data layering that's going to work for them just starting out?
Well, getting into contextual data layering is not necessarily a startup type of strategy. There are certain learnings that have to be understood before you start applying real data modeling into your marketing that a startup just doesn't know yet.
Yeah.
I mean, we all can sit in our offices, home offices, or at our our conference room and as marketers kind of deduce what we think is a high likely conversion audience. But as you know, Matt, being a big e-commerce guy that you are, that is almost always illuminated to be slightly askew who's actually buying.
I've never got it right yet, to be honest with you, Jason.
Yeah. So no, I don't think anybody. I mean, right out of the gate, how can you? Because that stuff. I mean, it's just there's trends, there's just all this stuff. So I would say to marketers this. In order to understand really what's actionable in your business, you have to be able to leverage analytics, right? And there's all these tools that are free. You don't have to have the money, but what you have to also understand is that when you're testing offers, you're testing creatives, what audience is that being presented to? So if you're in a meta campaign and you're just pulling Facebook ads and you're doing an A/B test on some creative or an offer, and you go, wow, this one's really popping. The big question we always have is, with all of the slop built into that data, with all the erroneous selects that are either diluted or just not present anymore, who liked it of that audience? Was it like, I mean, you take Lamborghini, so much of their traffic or what, digital marketers take credit for are 17-year-old boys just going to their website to get a picture for the background of their phone. Like that's a significant audience segment for them. Is that where you put your retargeting efforts? Is that where you put your brand strategy? No. So how do you define, the result of a test if you don't know the audience well enough to know who actually liked it? Was it the 18, 20-year-old, kids that love the ad and they just love it because they're active on social media and they're more likely to see it, and that's who's engaged? Or is it that high conversion segment? Is that who liked it? And so being able to understand that takes some just some understanding as you look at your analytics, I think.
Yeah, and checking out that data. And it's interesting because one of the things I hear a lot on the show is, when it comes to data, obviously you've got to test this ad, test that headline against this headline, test that image against that image, that copy against this copy, split test, A/B test. I've not heard many people, Jason, come on the show and say, yeah, but what audience are you showing that to? Everyone sort of focuses on the things which are, can I say things which are seen? Because, a headline is easily seen, isn't it? Whereas the audience is not necessarily that straightforward.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, it's so obvious and apparent, and yet it runs so counterintuitive to an understanding we have to have as digital marketers to think that we start digital marketing campaigns from the ad serving audience piece forward because we just assume that when we tell Facebook, for example, that we want to target this audience, that's where the ads are going. What we're over here screaming from the sidelines at Specificity is, but it's not. It's really, really not. I was at the Digital Marketing World Forum, based, I think, in the UK there. They do shows all over the world, conferences all over the world. They have one in Miami. And so we're talking to these folks about all of these things. And what really comes to understand is that marketers trust those data selects are just buttoned up. So what we did, just as a little case study going into this, is I went into Facebook, or I had my team going to Facebook and say, listen, let's narrowly define an audience. So let's go by job title, which, as you know, not everybody puts their job title. Sure. But we just want to serve ads to people with these 5 or 10 or 12 job titles in these cities. And let's look at the engagement metrics, and let's just show how obviously they don't match up. So we targeted 5 or 6 cities and marketing job titles. We had people 1,000 miles away, nowhere near marketing, advertising, or even business, replying and commenting on our posts. Well, wait a minute. We told Facebook and gave them money and
Yeah.
said, we just want to go after people that have marketing manager, marketing director, chief marketing officer, job titles. How is this gentleman in Tucson, Arizona, when our campaign's supposed to be targeted on the East Coast, that's a, this guy, just one particular guy was a retired Vietnam vet, very into veteran causes. We went and looked at his profile. Nowhere near marketing. Nowhere near marketing. And yet he's commenting on our post because he didn't understand why I got the ad. It's like, yeah, we don't either. So if you think that your ads, if you start your campaign with just that trust, and well, we know that if we set this up in Meta or Google or any of these big tech platforms, that's who it's going to, you're already losing 30, 40, 50% of your ad spend is just leaking out the front door. But the big problem, Matt, is it makes your analytics diluted. It really dilutes the actionability of the analytic insights you get from campaigns when the audiences are also sloppy. I mean, how can you take action on activity and engagement when half of your audience or 30% of your audience, depending on the market you're in, it isn't even the right audience? But man, they really like the ad because it's orange and they like orange and consumers take action on orange. So they're clicking the ad. But this gentleman in Arizona wasn't going to hire us to do marketing, but not even close, nor did he have just the interest category of AdTech or marketing or MarTech, any of it. So so for us, you've got to take a step back and start with that piece, the audience. Who do you want to serve the ad to, and how do you make sure that's where you serve your ads? So what we're doing is building these audiences outside of ad tech with legally compliant, ethically sourced data. We're modeling for contextual data layers that illuminate intent, that illuminate amenability, hobby, interest, all of these things, the economic wherewithal, just all of these things that are germane to a high conversion audience. But then we're converting them into nothing more than a list of device IDs that we publish to AdTech. And we publish it across the board. So we have commoditized for our clients these ad tech platforms because, frankly, Matt, I don't know about you, but I don't think any of my clients give a rip if that person saw it on one of Meta's platforms like Instagram or Facebook, or whether they saw it in a display ad on the 10-speed website they frequent. I don't think they care. They want the conversion and they want the right audience reached. And if you're accomplishing that, then really you shouldn't care what channel they're seeing it on. So publishing it to all of them and then simply allowing that to play out, that's going to feed your analytics too on channel and device much better.
So if I'm understanding this right, Jason, the way that you control the audience is you are telling Facebook the ID of the person. You're in effect saying to Meta or whoever, these are the people you need to reach, as opposed to, and that's based on your own research, your own data sources, as opposed to saying to Meta, find me all these marketing directors and they just happen to leak stuff out.
We're not giving Meta a list of criteria we would like for them to see present to serve an ad because we know they're not going to pay attention to it. And even when they are, if you think about this, really just the mechanics of it, with iOS update really killing app tracking data here domestically in the US, over 95% of consumers have opted out of it. That is all their second and third party data. It's gone. So now they can't do those contextual data layers because they were just APIing them and using permissions and things really nefariously to get at it. So consumers said no. They got rebuked here in the U.S. And as you know, we're way behind you guys in terms of data privacy for consumers. We're way behind. But one of the things that we all have to understand is to be a really hyper-targeted marketer, here's one piece of data you never need: personally identifiable information. I don't need any of that. I don't need your name. I don't need your date of birth. I don't need any kind of government ID here in the States. It's so scary. I don't need any of that. I just need to know that this set of devices belongs to a human being that's in the market for this, or is showing behavior that they're going to buy something that my client is selling, or that they're into a certain, or whatever the case is. We just need to know that those devices are in the purview of somebody that's going to take action on a product to then serve the ad about that product and give them that option. But that's because we don't sell data. We don't make, there's zero revenue comes into Specificity for selling data. Zero. We don't sell any data.
So and again, this is fascinating in a lot of ways, because what you have just said, or at least what I've just heard, let me preface this correctly, that you don't need the name, you don't need the email address, all the things that we've been told as marketers we need. You just need I think you said a device ID. Um, so you've got that information, and you're giving Facebook that information to market to those people, or are you just bypassing Facebook entirely?
Well, no, Facebook's a great place to serve ads, especially for the core demographic spending the most money. It's folks
Mm.
our age, 30 to 54, whatever that age group is, depending on the product category. And they're there. I mean, it's undeniable that there are still certain segments that trust Meta, or at least Facebook specifically, to convert. So no, we love Facebook. We just don't. We just when they say, "Hey, we'll go ahead and target this for you," we say, "No, thanks. Just target these people for us." And they do,
Mm.
and it's just simple calculation. What we're really doing, Matt, is we're just saying to the big tech world, everybody, that they're targeting selects are diluted, and they know it. The messaging they're putting out, Facebook just sent an email out last week. I'm sure you got it to every agency in the world. Hey, we've got this new AI tool, and help you broaden your audience.
Yeah.
And I don't know anybody that cares about ROI that's going, gee, if I could just broaden my audience, I'd be more successful. No, we're looking to narrowly define audiences. We're looking to understand consumer segments, B2B segments, and how they're taking action, and what works with segment A versus segment B, even under an umbrella of a high conversion audience. Like, we want to be a little smarter than just more people. Just more people.
Yeah. Just more people just never really works, does it? So, someone's listening to the show. They're a reasonably sized e-com business, turning over a couple of million. And they've maybe done traditional Meta advertising and Google advertising. What's the sort of the advice for that group of people? What are some of the sort of takeaways that they can take here? I mean, yes, you're mentioning, check out the audience, make sure it's going to the right thing. Look at the analytics, but what sort of things should I be looking for? What are some of the next steps I should take?
Well, but before, like for people not doing business with specificity, not ready to do business with specificity, and I'll tell you right now, our technology is really focused on serving ads here domestically in the U.S. We can do ads like through Tubla in the UK and Europe and other countries, but we're relegated again to some flattening of the data. Not because of Tubla, just because of the data privacy laws are different, and we don't have all the opt-in data that we have here domestically. But the first thing I would tell marketers before they come down our road, or if they're not going to come down our road, is to source a much smarter data API software for analytics. GA4 is great for a marketer that doesn't have a budget, and GA4 is great if you can afford the very expensive version that really pops the hood. But for the free version, I mean, Google inherently is going to show you or illuminate results more clearly that take place in their ecosystem. So they just have this select, they say, it's basically just direct traffic. And what is that? That's everything you're doing with your digital ad spend. That's display, that's programmatic, connected to, that's all these things they don't yet make a living on. And so they just lump it into this box so you can't parse it out. So there's a lot of tools out there for analytics to at least arrive at a better result in terms of your segments, channels, to know where that put through is coming from. The other thing is, everywhere you have the opportunity to deliver, either through big tech or even outside of big tech through direct campaigns where you really understand your audience, watch those analytics and always layer them, juxtapose everything you're doing in big tech. You'll see these widening of data points that really speak to what's going on in your social campaign. There are ways to manipulate those selects in Facebook, for example, to make your campaigns perform better. There's a whole cottage industry set to do that. Here in the US, we have Gary Vee, AdTech Media, and he's talking about, I just put some content from him last week. He's talking about, well, if you put out a video and it performs well, and then you want to keep boosting it, keep moving it, and drive more revenue out of it, then the end of his video, he says, we found that if you put a meme first and then a video, and then it'll do, and I'm like, wait a minute, isn't that like the 1990s cheat codes on Nintendos, right? forward, back, BA, punch. Like, that's great for Gary Vee, who's got the inside track at Meta, but all of us out here, we're not friends with the management team at Meta. We don't get the cheat codes ahead of time. So by the time he's sharing it, they're done. They're already been used by the big agencies that have these inside tracks. And so for me, it's just understand your audience as best you can, and really take some time to dig through your following's profiles and really understand what they look like. I think that understanding until you're ready to really harness smarter data modeling is at least a start.
Yeah, no, very good. Very good insight. So, what software would you recommend other than GA4? You mentioned, it's okay, but there are better ones out there. What sort of platforms come to your mind?
Well, there's a ton of them, and to be really frank with you, we intentionally remain agnostic on all of these issues. We don't advocate for one versus another. We advocate for clients, Matt. We're a big believer in it, and if you're really frank, if you understand how these softwares work, they all have like not some of them have multiple, but they all have like a particular thing they're really good at, a little better than the others, and they kind of cut their teeth on that. So you want to try to partner with a firm that's really specialized in e-commerce or in B2B campaigns or in branding or even vertical market high-end e-commerce versus, your more mass volume $5 product needs 20 million impression campaigns. So I would say do your homework. We are going to put up on our website later this week a list of some of these softwares that we've used on behalf of our clients over the last 6 to 12 months. But AI has really changed so much
Yeah.
in terms of what's usable and what's not anymore. It's really rocked the boat, and I think there's a lot of misunderstanding of AI right now.
Yeah, there is, isn't there? And I love how everybody's just throwing the word AI onto everything. Like it's, you come and buy this now because it's, Lego Indiana Jones AI. It's if I put AI on it, it makes it magical. Like it's going to do something you never anticipated. Where do you see, as we're on the topic of AI, where do you see AI going in relation to the type of thing that you're talking about, in relation, because Facebook have come out and said, we've now got AI that's going to help you target better. Right. Is that, I have mixed feelings about whether Facebook ever tells me the truth or not, but
they don't.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? But where do you see over the next few years this whole industry going because of AI? Some of the things that maybe we should watch out for.
Well, I think what people have to understand about AI is that let's take these analytic softwares that are touting, and there's some of them already doing 9, 10 figures in revenue, leveraging AI for your analytics and how to arrive at smarter conclusions. They all start with the assumption that the data you're getting out of Facebook and Instagram and Threads and TikTok and Twitter or X now and LinkedIn and through your programmatic and DSP and all of those, and they're assuming that this data is good, and from there we're going to use AI to draw conclusions. But here's the thing: there's been case studies of this. If you feed AI dumb information, it's going to get you dumb conclusions. It'll just do it faster. Yeah. It'll just do it more quickly.
Yeah, that's true. So, garbage in, garbage out, right? It's the
absolutely.
Yeah.
I've cut my teeth on emerging tech and digital marketing for 20 years. And it's hilarious to me, and Matt, I'm sure you've got some shared experience here. Our industry gets grasp vernacular way before usability, and then everybody flocks to it like it's a real thing. So you got this analytic tool, that's great, but your data's still bad. So what it's going to show you is all the people that aren't relevant that are liking your ad. Yeah, let's go to more of those, but they don't know that that's the 17-year-olds looking for the iPhone background picture or the Android picture for their phone from Lamborghini. AI doesn't know the difference. It doesn't have that understanding, and even if you feed it, companies like Meta are never going to pop the hood and let your AI tool for your campaigns loose into their ecosystem. So it's always going to be a hit hard and hope and really trust Meta, and we don't. So I was just on a call yesterday with a very large company, not yesterday, excuse me, last week, but a very large company. It was like, yeah, so we're really thinking about partnering with this company because audience ideas really are challenging. They've got this great optimization tool. I'm like, great. So your audiences are diluted. You're wasting a lot of ad spend, and you're going to feed AI all of that data to help you arrive at all of the conclusions based on data is bad. That doesn't sound like a great strategy to me. I've sat on the sidelines with AI for 18 months, just watching the market just do what it does with everything new. And I'll be frank and full disclosure, I just acquired an AI programming company. There is a play with AI we like. There's a play that we're making with AI we like. But I think there's real danger in the overconfidence people will have with AI. And there's a real challenge with the bastardization of communication channels with AI. When that frequency of, or that per instance cost model gets flattened, something like email, I mean, gee, that's what I'm hoping for is more emails, right? So, I mean, we've got an AI email tool because I mean, unfortunately it works and you've got to go where the market goes and it's automated and, conversions are cheap. However, long term, we're all going to end up in a cloud for corporate communication because email is going to get just crushed as a communication channel by AI driven email. I mean, you can see it ramp up. The cost per instance is so low to send email. Who's not going to do AI email right now? Who's not going to do it?
Yeah. It's a really interesting one, isn't it? How you're right. I must spend, I don't even know how long, the start of every day, just delete. And you don't even look at them now because you go, well, it's not even from a person. This is AI written this. And you can tell the one straight off the bat, to be fair. But you're right. I don't need more email. But my email seems to be, I wonder actually how many more emails I'm getting this year as opposed to last year. I suppose that'd be a really interesting stat to know. But yeah, fascinating. But I like this. It's such a sensible thing what you said. AI is not going to solve your problem if you're still giving it crap data. And so
no, and using ChatGPT-4 to produce some programming that will automate some email is not the same thing as real machine learning when it comes to identifying high conversion audience. That takes a whole different type of programming and a whole different type of programmer. And that's just not the play. ChatGPT-4 and just going in and saying, well, I would like to figure out how to make my house, energy efficient for $5 a month, and I have a 7,000 square foot house, and it'll spit out how to do it. It's ridiculous and it's crazy. And if you understand that that's what AI is going to deliver with bad data, then I guess it's okay. But it is not doing nothing but really assessing bad data inputs and how to refine those outcomes based on that.
And I guess if you've at one end you've got the data, as in the client data, you've figured out who the right target audiences are. You've got that information, and then you can connect that to the consumers or your customers, e-com system where they can analyze what they bought and when. Then I would imagine AI could give you some very interesting information.
Well, I mean, Matt, I don't want to run over on you, but here's a great case study on the difference between big text targeting and what we're doing. And this isn't a commercial. It's just, I'm talking approach here. So you take an industry like the window replacement industry here in the Tampa to Sarasota market. So if you're a window company, your goal, depending on where you're at in the market, we have a client that sells like $50,000 plus window jobs.
Oh, wow.
So naturally, there are just parts of the audiences or of consumer audiences you want to suppress out. For example, if you don't own a home, we don't want to market to you. Nobody's buying windows for their rental property, and nobody's buying high-end windows for their rental property. And then there's all this value a house. But when you really get smart with data and you start with all the data selects that you can then use for analytics, you arrive at a conclusion that your highest conversion audience in this market for this client is somebody that has 26% home equity or more. That's the one corollary across all segments that illuminates the highest conversion rate and the lowest cost per acquisition. You'll never find that understanding anywhere in Meta, anywhere in any big tech or big AdTech platform. It's not even there. They're not even trying. Because if they know if you do that, all of a sudden your audience went from 1 million, take the whole consumer, 3 million people. Now we're homeowners, so now we're 1.5 million. Now we're homeowners of a certain value. Now we're 500,000. Now we're homeowners of a certain value with a certain equity. Now we're down to 115,000 people or 140,000 people on an annualized basis to focus our ad spend on. But the conversion, so the ad spend comes way down. The frequency goes up. The cadence gets better because the analytic understanding, this is the audience. This is who's going to buy. So their behaviors are really informative and inform the campaign back in real time. And so because that's how actionable those analytics become.
Yeah, it's super powerful. And you look at that and you go, well, that makes an awful lot of sense. Instead of spending money advertising to 1 million people, I'm just going to advertise to 50,000 people over here who I know are the exact people I need to advertise to. So I'm saving myself 950 grand's worth of advertising. Plus, my conversion rate is going to be, I imagine, significantly higher. And the buy-in's going to be significantly higher. So then I'm getting a bigger return on investment, and then the managing director's happy, and everyone's happy on there at that point. It's like the holy grail of marketing. Tell me about, whilst we're talking about this, Jason, tell me about Pickpocket, because I was on the Pickpocket website, because obviously and Sadaf sent me these notes. I'm like, Pickpocket is just a really cool name. I thought, I wonder what that's about. And then I went onto the website, and I'm like, this is what you have done, which I assume I read in the data is US based only. But what you have done, I thought was, if I've understood this right, Jason, I thought it was quite magical, almost witchcraft like. But just explain what it is to the listener.
Yeah, so Pickpocket is a self-serve platform. So it's really dipping our toe into the water of competing with, frankly, big tech and doing it with better data. So right now, Pickpocket is relegated to location-based only. It's in beta testing right now. We're fusing AI into it as we speak. Right now, it's relegated to location-based. So wherein you've got like geofencing and some of these technologies, it's a half a mile big circle or a mile and a half big circle. Pickpocket is API data sets that arrive at audiences that are location based, relegated to circles as small as 3 feet by 3 feet. So you can go in, you can put the addresses you want to compete with or that you want to pull audiences from. So if you're in the restaurant business, if you're in the bar business, if you're in a retail space, there's about 15 vertical markets where location just matters quite a bit. As an illuminant of a high conversion audience, especially in frequency verticals where people, go to a bar, they tend to do so with frequency. So Pickpocket allows you to go in, set up those locations in your market. So here's 7 of my competitors. I'd like to tell them about our Friday night, food specials or whatever, drink specials, and it's big, it's scalable. And you put them in, and then it pulls the data in. You upload your own ad. You disseminate your own spend level, frequency, and length of campaign. You get to set it up same way you do Meta. The only thing we promise you is we're not going to just make a bunch of wild assumptions and grow your spend. You tell us you want to spend $500 for the month on these locations. One thing we guarantee you is that you will not serve an ad to anybody that did not visit one of those locations in the time period you're running your campaign. That we guarantee. And so it's our first move into that market. We're going to bring in criteria based, where you're going to be able to set criteria with contextual data layers and then go after it. And then it publishes the ads literally everywhere. It's through an AdTech platform that then does the ad placement through device ID only to everywhere. So it's social, it's programmatic, it's DSP, it's all of that.
Yeah, and when I saw this, I thought, if I owned a restaurant, for example, this struck me as particularly genius because I could do very hyper-localized marketing. And using your system, and I can go, right, I'm just going to go here, here, and here. And it could be anything, like you say, a restaurant, a gym, tennis club. It doesn't matter. If it's a hyper-localized business, you could use this system to target people in your area. And then I thought, actually, could I, as an e-com business, use this? For example, I'm going to go back to my Lego Indiana Jones. Sure. Let's assume in Colorado somewhere, there is a Lego Indiana Jones conference going on at a big exhibition center, and there's 50,000 people going to that exhibition. Could I use your system to target that exhibition for that period of time?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can start with last year's attendees and market to them ahead of this year's conference. So that's a major play with Polygon technology correlated to device ID. Is there's a time component to it that allows you. And we do this in the B2B space a lot for conferences, where you've got companies that go to conferences. Literally, it's one of their primary modes of lead generation. And so we start with last year's attendees. We pull all the device IDs that were there last year in that time period, suppress out competitors, suppress out custodial staff, or all the staff that go into putting on the conference. And then from there, we arrive at a really robust list of attendees. And then you start to market to them going into the conference. You pull real-time data during the conference to add that layer in. And then, and this is the brilliant part, it's the post-conference follow-up, because so many transactions take place through e-commerce on your Lego model on Monday or Tuesday, or in February when it's Matt's birthday and we know he likes Indiana Jones and we know he likes Lego. And so that's the opportunity there. Is it does so much more than just serve ads. It's so much more than transactional. It's real audience identification, and it's a real target audience ID that you can market to in perpetuity to drive conversions in a product like Lego.
That's wild. I'm just thinking, like I could follow Coldplay around the United States, for example, and sell Coldplay merch online, and just have all the people that have gone to the conference just.
We're doing exactly that, not with Coldplay, but we're doing that with a band right now on behalf of one of our clients that sells a cannabis product.
That narrows the band down a little bit, doesn't it? I suppose.
Not to delve into controversial spaces, because we're not selling the cannabis side, we're selling the CBD side, but that's what we're doing. Is that they have a really good following with a band that kind of is a spokesperson for them, and we just grab those audiences all over the world. Not all over the world, we can't do location based in Europe, but all over the U.S. We pull these audiences to go to these concerts.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. Jason, listen, I've really enjoyed the conversation, man, and it's given me some whole new ideas, especially for our US market. So I'm going to be talking to the team tomorrow. But I fascinating. If people want to find out more about you, about the company whose name I can't pronounce, about Pickpocket, which is a name I can pronounce, what's the best way to do that?
Go to specificityinc.com. That's the easiest way. That's a little bit difficult to spell, so you can go to jasonawood.com as well. And you can just click on the specificity icon there. But check us out on social under my name, Jason A. Wood, or Specificity, or Pickpocket for that matter. And you can find it. We're everywhere.
Fantastic. We will, of course, link to Jason and specificity in the show notes.
Love it.
I've never in my life had a word which I can't pronounce, and I don't know what it is about this one. I've been practicing for weeks now.
Can I tell you real quick why I named it Specificity?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so real briefly. So, like I said, I've had other agencies. I've been in this core of audience ID side of digital marketing my entire career. I've just been a believer in it. And so when I would talk to prospects about what we do, I would use this phrase all the time. You can target audiences with absolute specificity. And so my team started teasing me. Our clients that have been with us for years and years started teasing me for using that word all the time. So when I decided to take our company public, I said, you know what? I'm calling it specificity.
And why not? And I'm grateful for the staff that, like me, can't pronounce it.
Our ticker symbols SPTY, by the way, on the OTCQB platform.
How have you found it taking your company public? Because that's not I've served on one public board before, and in the UK the legislation is horrendous for that. But yeah, how have you found that going public as a company?
It's a lot. Capital markets are really tough. They're a snake pit. I'll just be one of the guys out here because we don't really rely so much on capital markets. We go after individual investors because we're trying to build more of a team of investors than just people looking at cash in, cash out, and all that, and make these equity plays. But capital markets are a snake pit. Everybody's going to promise you the world. Everybody's going to do this and do that. Yeah. We had a guy come to the table. Yeah, man, we're all in at $2 million. I've got 3 other funds. And then, capital markets are tough right now. And then he just pulls out. It's just so specious. Every IR guy in the world will tell you, we can get right at, that retail investor that likes the microcap space and likes MarTech. And I'm like, really? How are you doing that since we don't have app tracking data anymore? Yeah. Tell me how you're doing that. I can do it, but you can't do it. So it's tough, man. The regulations are onerous. Reporting is an animal. But it gets you access to capital markets. And if you want to make a big play, and if you want to butt heads with big tech, you better be able to build a war chest to do it. And that's why we took our company public. We feel like we've got a proprietary advantage right now with the marketplace. It's a big play. Yeah, no, fair play. But check it out. And we will, of course, like I say, link to all this information in the show notes. Or you can find it all on the website, ecommercepodcast.net. Listen, Jason, thank you so much for joining me, man. Thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. My pleasure. It's been great. Always nice to connect with a fellow Chiefs fan as well. So, yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks
for having me, Matt. We really appreciate it.
Great. And also a big shout out to the show's sponsor. I've just lost my ability to talk about anything now. The e-commerce cohort. Check out ecommercecohort.com if you fancy joining that membership group. And if you're in e-commerce, you probably should check it out because it is a little awesome pot of gold to be a member of. Yes, it is. Now, be sure to follow the e-commerce podcast wherever you get your podcasts from because we've got some more great conversations lined up. And I don't want you to miss any of them. And before I wrap up today's episode, let me take a moment to invite you or maybe somebody you know to be a part of the show. If you're an e-commerce entrepreneur or an expert and would like to share your insights with our audience, we would love to hear from you. Or like I say, if you know someone who would make a great guest, send them our way. Just head over to the website, ecommercepodcast.net. I've lost it. ecommercepodcast.net and get in touch. And in case no one has told you yet today, let me be the first person to tell you. You are awesome. Yes, you are. Created awesome. It's just a burden you have to bear. Jason's got to bear it. I've got to bear it. You've got to bear it as well. Now, the e-commerce podcast is produced by Orion Media. You can find our entire archive of episodes on your favorite podcast app. The team that makes this show possible is the wonderful Sadaf Bainon, as we've talked about, and Tanya Hutzlak. Our theme song was written by Josh Edmundson. And as I mentioned, if you'd like to read the transcript or notes, head over to the website ecommercepodcast.net, where coincidentally, you can also sign up for the newsletter and get all of this good stuff direct to your inbox totally for free. That's it from me. That's it from Jason. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a fantastic week wherever you are in the world. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.